Hello everybody and welcome to FEMME FLEX Friday. I'm Alina Popa and today my co-host is Whitney Jones.
Hi!
Welcome guys to our show. The topic we picked for today we found to be a very interesting one.
Yes.
And we called it the mental versus the physical athlete. Mm-hmm. We know, for example, when we're dealing with newbies or athletes that just stepped onto the stage, right? They are mainly focused on the results,
yes,
the placings, right? As opposed to, let's say, more older, right? More seasoned,
veteran,
professional athletes that, of course, they still wanna go for the placings, but what matters is the experience, the process, and what they learn from it, right? And it's not always easy. So when we are going through a prep, we know that we always have all these burdens, especially the stress, the physical body, the hormonal stress, right? It's always hard. I always find it hard or challenging to prepare. It's rewarding, but it's challenging, right?
Yes, always. And everyone has a story, and there's so many amazing stories of athletes who've overcome major adversities, who are dealing with so much just to get to the stage. And we want to bring on some special guests because their stories are very unique and very powerful for what they've had to go through to present their best on stage. And we're going to start off first with IFBB Fitness Pro, Dorina Wilson, who we are happy to have here with us today and to share your story because it's been quite a journey for you the past several years.
Absolutely, Derina. Welcome to our show, and I'm really impressed by your story. So I would love for you to share it with us.
Sure. I started my journey in 2015 after the passing of my father to kidney failure. When I first started competing, I was in a kind of non-compassionate job that I decided to give up. I moved in with my mother. I was caretaker for both of my parents and decided to take a pay cut to follow my dreams. I said I wanted to be a fitness model, and somebody said maybe sign up for a competition. So it just clicked in my head, okay, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I need to give that up. I need to follow my dreams no matter what, the money entails. It's what I really want to do. So I started competing and I won my first NPC show and Team Universe. I went to Garden States first and I got that qualifying points, and I went to Team Universe and got my IFBB Pro card and got the overall. And I went to my first competition, the Tampa Pro, 2 weeks later, just to get the experience and then to really get the feedback of the judges to come back the next year and to really put all my efforts in. And I wound up being top 5 in every show, and then surprisingly qualifying and tying with Christine Duba, not knowing if I was going to be going to the Olympia or not. But my coach Lina Squarcia-Fico said that you're going to the Olympia in your first year. So they called me. I only had 3 weeks left to prepare for the Olympia. So she's like, you're going to hate me. You're doing 3 hours of cardio a day. But I thank her for making me do that because the amount of change and transformation I had within that 3 weeks was incredible. So I competed 2015, 2016, and I wound up going to the International Arnold shows and placed second in South Africa and 5th in Australia. And when I was in the Miami show in 2017, I unfortunately lost my mother the day after I placed 3rd place at the Miami Pro. So I took 2 months off of that and then decided to finish out the season, compete in Arizona, get my qualifying points, and earn my 2nd place, 2nd time going to the Olympia. So then after that, I've had my shares of ups and downs and grieving and, depression and everything like that. But fitness really helped me to focus all my passion on that. In 2018, I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. and was undergoing a double mastectomy because it was poorly differentiated, meaning it was fast growing, fast spreading. I had symptoms for over a year. I had pain, I had a lump, and I had blood discharge from my nipple.
So this was one of the questions that I actually had. It was not just all of a sudden, right? You said you had pain, right? So when did started to happen? When did the pain start to happen as you were prepping?
It was after my mother's passing. I wasn't eating a lot. I wasn't sleeping a lot. I was very depressed. I was grieving a lot in private. And I think it was just, that cancer was breeding in that environment. It wasn't until I went on vacation. I was supposed to be vacation. It was called the Christmas Cruise from Hell. We called it, my sister and I, because I told my sister that I just went for a biopsy because I'd had these symptoms for over a year after our, mother's passing, but I didn't want to say anything.
How old were you when this was happening?
I was 38, now 40. Yeah, so it's only 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. So I hid all these things from my mother because she was just, she just lost her husband. I just lost my father, and it was enough to, to make anybody even more sick than they already were. So my mother suffered from heart disease from 2001. She had a triple aneurysm and was in a medically induced coma for 2.5 months.
Wow.
So after that, she had about 12 surgeries since 2001. She was on 40 different medications. She was manic depressive. She was bipolar. And it was me a lot of the time, taking my parents to both the, doctor's appointments and driving him to dialysis and administrating medication and IVs and different things like that. So it was a lot to handle, and that's the reason why I didn't want to compete for a while. But my coach had asked me for 15 years, and I just always said, it's not the time. It's too much. It's much more easy to just wear my pajamas to work and do something that doesn't require any energy or diet.
So was this 2017 or 2018 when you got diagnosed with breast cancer?
2018.
18. And were you prepping for a show at that point when you got diagnosed?
Oh yeah, I was prepping for my first Arnold Classic.
Okay, Ohio, right?
Gave me the go-ahead. Yeah, my doctor gave me the go-ahead and was like, I think it'll be good for you. I think.
How long before the show did this happen?
Yeah.
Oh God.
2 months.
I think it was 6. How long? How long?
I know, I'm trying to think. I mean, it wasn't that long because you and I are friends, so I kind of got some of the inside info.
At the same time that you were getting your surgery, I was getting my surgery. I think we had it we found out at both the same time. I think it was only for a couple months or so.
So when you heard that you were diagnosed with breast cancer, what made you decide to keep on prepping for Arnold, right? Because that's what you did eventually. I think you finished 6th place, right, that year?
Yes.
So you kept on pushing instead of pulling back and focusing on healing your disease, or was the prep a part of healing?
The prep was a part of healing.
Okay. And tell us more about it. How did you change your mindset? How did you change your thoughts into focusing from going into a potentially deadly disease to I'm just gonna go prep for this and I'm gonna pull myself out of that?
I just thought it's not going to kill me. It's just a blip in the road. This is something to maybe teach me a lesson, but there's something out of this that's going to be better about it. And if I can do it myself, then I can help other people and motivate them and inspire them in any type of way besides giving up. It was never in my DNA to give up. I just always wanted to try new things and to always get better at whatever was that I was doing, and I never gave up. I just always continued to just push. I've always been that fiery Aries kind of person, and when he gave me the diagnosis, I was like, okay, well, what do I got to do? And I was actually in the office by myself because he really just told me that my milk ducts were dilated and I would have to remove my milk ducts. I wouldn't be able to breastfeed, and I was like, okay, no problem. And instead, he told me I had cancer, and I was like, I went into the zone. I don't know. I call it rallying. My dad used to call it rallying. like, all right, what do I got to do?
Yes.
You know, so everything went to like, I have to eat better. I have to sleep better. I have to eat all organic. I need to eat all cancer-fighting foods. I need to de-stress. You know, all that stuff went into play. And it wasn't until after my double mastectomy that, like, I was like, I need massage, I need acupuncture, I need chiropractor, I need physical therapy. I need all these things. If I'm going to be like trying to compete at the top of my game with top athletes like Whitney Jones, I need to get my body like in shape, you know, where, you know, I'm 40, you know, we're still killing it at what we do, but behind the scenes, it's a lot of aches and pains.
Now, Dorina, after you had the surgery, you were recovering. I know there was the question of, are you going to come back? And there was a point that was like, gosh, is this going to happen? But you dug deep and you're like, yeah, of course I am. I got to do this for myself. I got to do it to prove to everyone else. But what is it that you can tell others that helps them through that battle? What is it that you really tapped into during that next prep post-surgery to get you back on stage that really helped solidify your whole meaning behind doing it?
Yeah, there was never a chance of me not coming back.
Good, love it.
There was always a question of, when I'm done healing, how long is it going to take me to get back to where I used to be? And instead of prep, I knew I was going to have to prep a lot longer than I usually did to get my shoulders back in, you know, in line with everybody else who's like first call out. And they constantly still say like, you need to, like, she needs to bring up her shoulders. And I'm like, okay, no, I know. I had 2 years off of, you know, training chest and, you know, an upper body. I couldn't really do what I wanted to do, but I just had to be patient. And every time I would go like for a walk in the park, I would find, you know, I'd see these, the monkey bars, and I would just see if I'd be able to hang. And at first it was like, oh, you know, a lot of pulling. And I just, every time I went, I was like, I can hang, you know? And then I was like, I could go from one thing to the next. Okay, now I can pull up, you know? But then I was also understanding from another, you know, other people's point of view, like, I've always been able to do pull-ups. Like, you know, from gymnastics, pull-ups and push-ups, it was like requirement. But I was just always abnormally strong genetically, that was always easy for me. And now for the first time, I can't do gymnastics. I can't do a back bend. Can't do, you know, I'm not flexible. I hang on the bar. There's a lot of pulling, you know? So I was like, all right, now my yoga practice comes into play. I'm a yoga certified teacher, as well as Pilates and bar. So I tapped into that more and stepped away from bodybuilding for a while, and continued to practice yoga, Pilates, and bar. You know, even with my double mastectomy and I had the drains in the side, I was still doing my plies and stuff and still working the lower body.
So it was pretty much all about your mind focus and being determined to go through this no matter what, right? And I have to say that, you know, like hearing your story, you didn't seem to be really phased out by an illness, by a disease. So my mind is like, I'm thinking, just because you saw it in your family happening over and over again with your mother and your father, do you think it made you a better fighter, a stronger fighter and the survivor?
Yeah, I watched, you know, them being sedentary, smokers, drinkers. My mom would eat chocolate cake for breakfast, you know. They went from being really like active when I was younger to kind of like giving up. And I think that's why my sister and I went the different route. My sister's like a professor of yoga and Pilates. She's opening up a yoga retreat center in Puerto Rico. Full vegan, you know, she lives the yoga lifestyle. And I kind of went in like both directions, but we're both in like the fitness and health industry. And because watching our parents like deteriorate, it changed your, you know, perspective on life, you know. Exactly. I'm going to do the best that I can. I want to be able to move and flip around like I used to when I was younger, and I still am.
Yeah. So if you were to give one piece of advice to people to go through athletes that go through the same situation as you did, what would that be?
Listen to your body, be patient, and know that it's not the end all. It will help you in the long run, teach you a lesson, and you'll come out a better and stronger person always.
Spoken like a true champ.
Absolutely.
We've got more great stories, so let's come back. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more inspiring stories.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else, every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
And we're back with more inspiring and phenomenal stories from IFBB Pro athletes who are showing the true strength of mental mindset and having that going into their prep. So we just heard from Dorina Wilson, and we also have Laura Richards joining us now. And Laura, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here.
Happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Welcome, Laura.
Where to start with my story?
Yes. Well, and Alina, you know her pretty well, correct?
I know, because me and Laura, we've known each other since I think 2011 or 12. We were both training in Colorado at the Armbrust Pro Gym. So we also worked together for a while right before she turned pro. You turned pro as a lightweight female bodybuilder, but you switched and competed in a pro division as a physique competitor, correct?
And you brought me in my last 6 weeks into my first show, yes.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
I love it.
I know.
So I couldn't think of anybody better to do this than you, because you remember what I was going through, and you saw it from an outside perspective when I myself didn't even know what was happening.
I know, and it was very interesting because you're right there, you know. I knew you very well, and then you disappeared. All of a sudden, you left Colorado, and you disappeared, and everybody was wondering, and I didn't hear and I didn't know what you're doing anymore because you're not active on social media. And then all of a sudden, I was looking at the Legion's Pro in 2019, and I see the winner of the WPD division was Laura Richards. I was like, oh my God, is this the Laura I know? So then I looked at the pictures like, oh, she qualified for the Olympia. So nobody knew anything from you, right? You didn't have a stellar reputation at that time. And
no, that's an understatement.
And then you came in and then you told us a lot about your mental illness and the difficulties you had been going through. And this is the reason we invited you here to talk about this.
So, knowing where to start with my story is difficult. My mother, she's bipolar, borderline, manic depressive. We'd come home from school and she'd have tried to commit suicide. There'd be bloody napkins all over, and she'd be locked in her bedroom. And this was from the time that I was 6, 7 years old.
Wow.
And my father was a workaholic, rageaholic narcissist. And he was never around. And you don't realize what that does to you as a kid. And you don't realize when you're pulled out of school to go do something fun that it's because your mom's not well.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I had a lot of those problems. I didn't know that many of them were genetic. And in 2015, when Alina was prepping me for my pro debut, my parents lost their home and were homeless that weekend. So they didn't come to my show. They didn't really tell me what was going on. And shortly after that, they started to live with me and my brand new boyfriend, who we had just moved in. So it was this weird dynamic of a brand new relationship and my parents being solely dependent on me. So I had to support a family of 4 now. And I just, I crumbled. I absolutely crumbled. I thought that instead of telling people that I was sick, that being a bitch business-wise was so much better. Okay. And that at least that was explainable. That, oh, you know, she's not broken, she's just a jerk. And to me, for years, that was better than telling people how broken I was. Fast forward to 2018, that boyfriend decided he had had enough. We were married at the time, but he dissolved it and kicked me out. I had my 2 pugs and whatever clothes I could fit in my Mustang. And surprisingly, the only person that opened their arms was my sister, and Alina knows my sister and I butted heads a lot and didn't have a very good relationship. But as we got older, we realized that we had a lot of bonding experiences that we were now ready to talk about.
So what was that moment when you actually could pinpoint that the problem that you had was the mental illness, right? And you pinpointed it, you accepted it, and you started working on it. What was that particular moment?
That was probably August 1st of 2018, when I was living in a 2-foot by 5-foot space behind my sister's couch. I was homeless for 3 months, and I was done with suits. I was done with the people I was making them for. I was done with everything. And so I got a job at our local grocery store, bagging groceries for $9 an hour. And I did that for about 6 or 8 months. And I love suits. I love suits so much, and I love making them, and I love giving them personalities. And, they were my friends for a long time, as silly as that sounds. But
did you seek advice and counseling, medical counseling?
At that point, I was reading a lot of books, and I couldn't afford counseling. I did start therapy about a year ago. And what was first thought of as bipolar and borderline myself has now recently been changed to severe ADD, depression, and anxiety. So I'm on medication.
Okay.
The thing that has changed so much is, like you said at the beginning of the show, preps used to be about a placing. It used to be about turning pro. And now my preps, I try to focus on what my biggest weaknesses are. And prep has always been that glue that has held me together. I grew up obese and pre-diabetic in my teen years because of how bad my diet was. And prep has always been that one clean thing that I knew was good. It was like my military school, if you would. So every prep now, like for Legion, I really just wanted to, Alina would remember, consistency is not a word that I liked very much. So consistency was, and for somebody with the mental problems, consistency is it's a 4-letter word. It's something that's there's times that I can't consistently get out of bed. There's times that I can't consistently take showers because the effort it takes, knowing that there's a list of people depending on you for you to get things done. Yep. So it's just learning each prep now. Okay, well, I'm going to focus on this word. And I think we all saw I did really good at the Legion. But then as soon as I heard that I was qualified for the Arnold and the Olympia, I knew about the Olympia. I was prepared for that. But for 20 years, this was my dream. My dream was to stand on the stage that I made you suits for. That like my suits have been there, but I never was. And finally, it was my turn to be up there, and boy, did I sink that ship right into the Arnold. I focused on all my fear, and I let my anxiety really take over. And I knew it from the second that I was told I was going to be in the Arnold that prep was over. That I was just going to screw it up. And the closer I got to the show, the more I realized I screwed it up back when I was talking to Whitney at the Legion. I had already thrown it out. And so for the Olympia, I started at 28 weeks out, and I told myself I was not going to do that again, that I was going to really get it in my head that I belonged there, that it wasn't an accident that I was there, and that I was going to enjoy every workout and really embrace where I've come. So,
well, and Laura, I have to commend you because there's not a lot of people who will talk about stuff like this. It's almost like it's still considered voodoo and taboo, and it's not easy. And
it's extremely embarrassing.
Well, but you're doing a huge service to so many. When you and I spoke at the Legions Fest after your win and had that interview, it was so powerful that you were just so vulnerable and exposing it all. Why? Because so many people could relate, but everyone just kind of hides behind this veil. And one question I have is, now that you have been more vocal with your story, what are you seeing from people? Are you hearing some people who are just feeling more encouraged that they don't feel so alone? Are you feeling more comfortable getting your story out there?
I am. It comes and it goes. There's times that I feel like, wow, I'm ready to start doing videos on my page and showing people where I'm at. And then about 20 minutes later, it's like, no, that was a terrible idea. So that's still, my mental illness is very much waves of emotion. So that's what I'm really trying to control this time, is my emotions, and keeping a better rein on them, but still feeling them, because I think a lot of people.
Do you have a strategy for that? When you start recognizing those thoughts and emotions going through your head, do you have a strategy on how to block them or get over them?
I pray a lot. There is a picture of Jesus holding his hand out to Peter in the water, and that's me. I am underwater 90% of the time, and every time that I feel like one of those cycles or episodes coming on, I just pray that the Holy Spirit and Jesus really guide me through it, because if I'm left to my own actions and my own thoughts, those are really the damaging, somebody with mental illness, our thoughts are what we have to learn to control. And that is so hard to tell your brain what you are and aren't allowed to think. And so right now, it's just a lot of, when a bad thought comes into your brain, you're just told to, that's not right. It's not real. I try to get into the gym because that's where I feel the best. But Whitney, you're right. There are a lot of people that are reaching out more and saying, hey, I feel that too.
Good.
So that is rewarding. And that's what I really want to do. Is my goal now is to not only get back to the Olympia, but it's to help all those girls that were in their 20s and their teens who think that they're broken, who think that, it's something that they're doing wrong. I just want to say, hey, it's not, and we can get through this. And if you learn now, you're going to be so much stronger and better for it in the future.
I love these words of advice that you have for all the newcoming girls and people who just discover that they have this sort of illness and that they have to battle with it. And I agree with you. I think the first step is accepting it. Right? It happens, and then learning how to deal with it. In your case, you discovered Jesus, right? So that is your strength. But I do believe that fighting it and not accepting it is not an option. Just like you did, you came out there and you talked about it. Exactly. That's the way to fight it, I guess, right?
Yeah, and to realize that it's not only a mental illness and a disease, it's like a drug. These are things that you're never going to not have. You're never going to not have anxiety. You're never going to not have depression, even if you're a healthy person. But you're going to live with it every day. And so make your enemies closer, right?
This is a part.
Be friends with your.
It's a part of being a human being, right? Having to deal with all of these things. So, Laura, thank you so much for opening up to us and talking to us. And we're gonna hear our next story after this short commercial break.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
Now, for both of you athletes, you want to leave the stage with a legacy, and you guys both have inspiring stories. People have followed your journey. So what is something that qualifies as a personal win for each of you that you can look back on that can mean something to you but also help others? So let's start with you, Dorina.
Support. Having support of the people around you, but in a positive way. Getting rid of any negative feedback from anybody who's trying to hold you back, but really having a loving and supportive group who really, really is standing in your corner.
Super valuable to have that, correct? I know you have, and you've leaned on it a lot, and that's important. And if you don't have it, go out and find some. Everybody has some friends or some people who relate to the sport, people they train with and work out with. Lean on those people, because I know as a friend of yours that it's really, really helped you, and I think it's important to really highlight that. And Laura, for you, what about for you?
So for me, what I'd really like to leave behind is I want to make it as seamless as possible to go between my professional life to stage life. And I don't want there to be any dips for me emotionally. I want to learn to embrace life and joy and mix my passion and my career together, which, I mean, they go hand in hand anyways. But I want to do it. I use the word normal, but I want to have normal thoughts, and I want to have healthy thoughts. And so I just want to have a happy, joyful life. And I want that to be present to people around me. You hear a lot of people complaining about competing in prep. I want to show that there's joy in it too, and that it can be something that brings us immense amounts of joy, even if the diet's a little boring or we have to do a lot of cardio. Like, that's what I want is to show how fun and joyful it can be.
Wow. This has been a very intense episode, Whitney.
It has. Very serious stuff, but stuff that needs to be said.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you both, Derina and Laura, for sharing your stories, for being vulnerable and helping to give everyone else a sense of inspiration. So we appreciate you both joining us here. And that wraps up another episode of FEMME FLEX Friday.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much
for being here with us, guys. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye, guys.